Before we get into today's podcast, I just want to thank this month's sponsor, and they're a returning sponsor, and I'm really excited to have them back. Our sponsor this month is Sock Panda, an online subscription service. For a small fee, you can receive a set of, or a pair, I suppose they don't come in sets, a pair of socks in your mailbox each month. And it makes for a great gift. I got it for my daughter last year for her birthday, so she got 12 socks, one every month, and she loved it. And when her birthday rolled around again, she was a little disappointed because I had gone a different direction this year. So if you have a sock lover in your life, you can gift them some socks, or if you just want a pair of your own. And they were so excellent to us. They sent us a bunch of socks to pass out at our events and to include in our daily drawing challenge and on all of those things. But they've also given us a coupon code, and if you use the coupon code Inebri-art, you can get a discount on your subscription. So head over to sockpanda.com and subscribe today. All right, welcome back, Inebri-ites. We are here again at Mayflower Brewing, and to keep it local, we brought in Mike Gioscia.
Correct.
Nice. It's probably the first time I've ever gotten right on this podcast. From Plymouth Rocks, which is kind of a nonprofit to promote. Is it just music, or is it all performing arts?
Music and film to start. That was my idea originally. Why not do some cool music and film events and share proceeds with local school music programs? Mm-hmm. That's literally how I got the first couple people involved to be like, hey, would you want to do this? What do you think about this? Is this something we can pull off? Is a lot of, is this stuff happening already? And there's a glut of it, but that was the original idea.
Yeah, and so I'm assuming you have a music background.
Yes, I'm a drummer.
Yep.
So I grew up playing drums.
So you hung out with musicians.
Hung out with musicians
for percussionist joke right there.
For many years. Played in bands, and then really just got into radio. Was the big thing. Did college radio. Moved to Boston in the 90s specifically to work at WFNX when they were still around. Spent most of the 90s doing radio there, and have still dabbled in radio ever since. And
now you're at WATD?
WATD just started as the new night guy, Monday through Thursday from 10 to 1, doing a show called Americana-rama.
Nice.
Which I took an hour in May. They had an hour open in May.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get my foot in the door there because I've been driving into Boston to do shifts at WZLX, which is great, but now that they're an iHeart radio station and moved to Medford, driving from Halifax, where I live, to Medford isn't exactly the best drive, so I've been trying to get something a little more local, a little more something that I can control.
Whether iHeart Radio, it's more corporate?
Yes.
Being accurate?
That's very accurate.
Yeah.
And, it's you're following up a playlist, and I mean, all the people I've worked with at ZLX when it was CBS Radio were awesome, and, the people that have carried on at iHeart, I mean, everybody's great. It's just musically and on the artistic side, I was looking for something a little more that I could control, and got my foot into ATD in May. They gave me an hour, so I took it on Tuesday nights to do Americana-rama. Americana, alt country, country rock, bluegrass, roots, all that kind of stuff. And did that for a while, and then suddenly the nighttime shift opened up, and I just started that in September.
Slid on into it?
Slid on in. Monday through Thursday is 10 to 1.
And so, because I know nothing about the radio industry, how does it work? Do you get a playlist and then you get X number of songs an hour or something that you get to play? Or?
In the corporate radio world?
Either. Corporate radio world, I feel like.
Corporate radio world, unfortunately, you just have no say anymore about playing anything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the cold, hard truth. I think when you're involved in it, you make it sound like, you have some kind of say. I mean, maybe occasionally you could, have some kind of say or maybe cheat on the format a little bit, even though, of course, I never did that.
No, there's other guys.
Other people I heard about, you could do that. But with ATD, it's completely my show. I can do whatever I want. It's free-form, commercial,
nice.
Local radio. So it's awesome. It's exactly what I wanted. So I'm thrilled to be there.
Do you feel now with the dawn of podcasting and Spotify and things like that, is radio getting harder and harder to find a spot? Is it kind of going away? Is it struggling like newspapers are, that kind of thing?
I think it is. I think it's struggling, but I think it's going to keep its niche.
Yeah.
I equate it a lot to big commercial beer and independent brews.
You're always going to have a Budweiser drinker.
You're always going to have the Bud, the Miller, the Coors Light. It's probably not going anywhere. But then look at the craft beer market.
It's crazy.
It's crazy, and maybe it's already hit its apex and coming back down. I don't know the beer market very well, but there's people that like it. They like it because it's different. They like it because it's local. They like it because it's like a real thing that speaks to them, and they don't care if it's smaller or if it's not reaching as many people. It's reaching them, and that's all they care about. So that's kind of what I think about with radio. I think radio is going to become more local and not so. I mean, that's one thing about the internet. It is, yes, you can stream every radio station everywhere. You could stream all this stuff, but again, you can only listen to one thing at a time.
Right, yeah.
And I think people are going to end up going back for more local programming that actually has something to do with them instead of this, huge tablet that really doesn't, all it does is get them all worked up. If it's politics or musically, you're listening to stuff that you can't really access as far as live music goes. So, so I'm a big believer in radio hanging in there. I just think it's got to get through, the tough spot and then be happy with its niche that I think it'll keep.
Yeah. And so on your show, do you feature a lot of local bands?
Actually, just some local stuff. We have a great local show. John Shea's Almost Famous on Tuesday nights that I come on after on Tuesday.
So you don't want to step on his toes. Right?
Yeah, well, I think he does such a great job, and that's kind of where I think the local music should, go to a local music director and then kind of disseminate from there. And but there's some local stuff that I definitely play, and actually some of it I've stumbled upon going the other way. Like, hey, I like this. Where are these guys from? Oh, they're from Boston. Oh, Darlingside. I like these guys. Where are they from? Oh, Boston.
Nice.
So it's but that's anything I like I'll play. I don't care how big it is, local. It could be older. I mean, a lot of the Americana stuff I've been listening to, but listening to it for years is different than bringing it on a radio program and being the curator.
So do you listen to it a little differently when you're putting it on the radio?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I have to really like it. Not like it forever. Some stuff I might play a couple times and go, yeah, that was okay, but it just kind of fades.
Yeah.
But I think you think a little bit more as a curator and your show as a whole, and you don't want to just be all over the place. You want people to kind of follow your groove of where you're going, and if you go. If you play 20 minutes of bluegrass one night, people are going to get, they'll be happy with that. They'll be like, well, sometimes he does this.
Right, yeah.
Or if he's really rocking tonight. It's like, yeah, well, sometimes Mike leans a little more toward the, alt country guitars and drums. And
so you get to really play what you're in the mood for that night.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes that's exactly what happens. I'll be like, man, I'm kind of mellow tonight. Why is that? You know, but I just kind of go with it and people are reacting to it, I think, so it's cool. So
then you decided. The first time I heard of Plymouth Rocks was maybe a year and a half ago.
Probably.
Is that about the time it started?
I think that's about the time we started up. Maybe even 2 years ago with the idea.
Yeah.
And then thinking. Original thought was music and film festival. And I sat with the Chamber of Commerce again. To ask, is somebody already doing this?
Right.
I did my
There's so much going on in Plymouth.
Yeah, there is. So it's, and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't missing something, and if someone's already doing a film festival, I couldn't find it.
Right.
And I work in indie film as well, so I was kind of looking for that. I'm like, you think I'd be able to find it? And all I could find was a few years ago. So I thought, it seems like they had a film festival, but don't.
Something down the Cape or one of the islands?
Cape, actually, Woods Hole has an amazing festival, and Nantucket has a great one as well. So, but I'm like, I don't think Plymouth has one anymore. So it looks like it's open, and I'm like, and as far as like a music festival, I know there's music all around, obviously, but like a South by Southwest kind of thing, like a whole weekend where every place has music. But I sat with the chamber just to be like, you tell me if someone's doing this, and I'll change what I'm thinking about, and they were kind of like, no, and they got excited and said, this sounds great, and connected me with some other people, so the ball started rolling. Then it was like, well, how do I do this? And someone said, well, you should probably start a nonprofit, which we did. We're officially a 501c3, which if I knew exactly how much work was involved.
I've heard that term before. I don't know.
It's
charity. That's about it.
Yeah, it's a nonprofit tax exempt status, and it just takes a while to get. So if I had known how long it took, I might have gone a different path, or I might have been scared away. But once I started toiling in it, I was like, all right, well, I got to get through it. And it took, I bet, almost a year just to get all those ducks in a row. And then we just started rolling out, our first couple shows at New World Tavern, and I've been doing 80s night at New World Tavern for a while that we put the Plymouth Rocks logo on. And
so you got beer tasting coming up at the Craft Beer Cellar.
Yep, so we're doing with the Monster Bash Halloween party. I know I'm probably jumping ahead a little bit, but
that's October 27th at Memorial Hall.
Correct, and we actually have two shows same day. First of all is the kids show, Imagination Movers.
Oh, so this is on the same day.
Same day. So we
That's probably not the best idea for you. You're going to be a little overworked that day.
It's going to be insane. But again, we're renting Memorial Hall.
You might as well use it.
Yeah, you get the keys at 7 in the morning, and you got to turn them in at 1 in the morning. So why wait till 7 p.m. to get the building moving?
So for those of us who don't have kids of this age bracket, what the hell is Imagination Movers?
So Imagination Movers used to have a show on the Disney Channel. My kids I have kids in high school. My kids were just getting a little older for that when they came out.
My kids were the Wiggle generation.
Right.
Yes.
So
I'm assuming this is similar?
It's similar. So the Wiggles were Australian, and these guys are from the States.
I thought you were going to say New Zealand.
And they're a little, they're a little more. They're not as little kiddish. They're a little old. I mean, they say like 4 to 14 is their birth, but they they like to think that they're a little hipper, a little cooler than the Wiggles.
A little more rock and roll.
A little more rock and roll, fun. I mean, parents tend to say I remember with the Wiggles, my kids would watch the Wiggles. I'd be like, oh, God, I can't stand these guys, with their broccoli and all these other things.
The worst was like you'd be driving to work or something in your car by yourself going, toot, toot, chug, a big red car. And you're like, there's no one here.
Or Captain Feathersword.
Yes,
See, I still remember. But yeah, so they were on Disney for a number of years, but their popularity is now on the road as like a touring act. So we were able to book them. So it's a real deal national act for kids that day, Saturday the 27th, 1 o'clock. PlymouthRocksEvents.org for tickets for both of these shows. So that's going to be a lot of fun, and then that'll be done at 3, and then we dump the room and reopen at 7. For the Monster Bash.
Clean up the juice boxes.
Clean it up, right? Oh, that's funny. The Imagination Movers have a song, Juice Box Heroes.
Oh,
so come on. And then we flip the room and open the doors at 7, and we do our Halloween show.
And what is the Halloween?
The Monster Bash.
Yeah, what is that going to entail?
So we're calling it the South Shore's biggest Halloween party, killer 80s Halloween party to benefit local school music programs, which I can talk more about in a minute. So we could get the date, October 27th, at Memorial Hall when we were looking for places to do something. And we were like, hey, that's Halloween weekend, right? That's the weekend before Halloween. That's going to be when everyone's out doing their thing.
Because Halloween's on a Wednesday.
Yeah, on a Wednesday. So it's usually that weekend before is the big celebration. And now adults have gone crazy the last, I'd say, 20 years,
Yeah.
15
I
years.
used to have a killer Halloween party when I was
So-
married.
so-
It's crazy.
So see?
Yeah.
So we're like, well, let's have a Halloween party. What does that mean? We're like, well, tribute bands are a big thing on Halloween and dress up and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 2 tribute bands. One is the Great Escape, Journey tribute band. They're a lot of fun. And then Power of Love is a Huey Lewis tribute band,
Yep.
and my band has played with them at the Sinclair in Boston.
Okay.
They're awesome. They're like an all-star band from different Boston bands that come come
nice.
together to
Yeah.
do the
Huey
to
Lewis.
do the Huey thing, and they pull it off so well.
Nice.
Going to have an appearance by the Thriller Dancers. We'll have a costume contest. My friend Greg Weimer from old WFNX days will be dressing up as Egon from
nice. Yeah,
from
okay.
Ghostbusters. So DJ Egon will be spinning the 80s hits.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's going to be a full-on 80s bash on the
And
27th.
What time does that run?
That'll run like 7, probably till like 11:30.
And they can get tickets for that at PlymouthRocksEvents.org.
Yep,
And
that's
ticket price?
ticket price for the kids show starts at $25.
Oh, that's not bad.
There's also a meet and greet,
Oh, cool.
and a lot of people are meeting and greeting the band.
Okay.
So it's again, I didn't realize there was a meet and greet in the kids show world, but it's on.
Yeah.
And then they start at $35 for the nighttime show.
Oh, that's not bad. Good night out.
Good night out. 2 bands, DJ, Thriller Dancers, cash bar. There'll be food available. Local food from Farms to Forks. Quinn.
Oh, Quinn. Quinn's
yep,
great, yeah.
Yep. Quinn's doing the food for us because that's a big thing with me. I'm a organic, non-GMO guy, and
Yeah.
working with someone that's doing locally sourced food is a big thing. So we want, whenever we're doing a Plymouth Rocks event, we want it always to have that component.
Yeah, and I tell people all the time, you're not going to go hungry in Plymouth. I mean, there's always good food to be had.
Right. Exactly.
So you mentioned your band.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your band.
Pretendica is a Pretenders and Elastica tribute band.
And you guys played at New World.
We have played at New
I've
World
seen the
Tavern.
poster.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep. We've
yeah.
played New World is kind of our South Shore spot that we play.
Yep.
We don't play out that much. I got to say, I've just been a little lazy with booking the band now that I've been running this Monster Bash and Kids Show. And Plymouth Rocks, it's just kind of
Yeah, it's one of
taken
those
away a
things,
little
by the
bit.
time it gets, we run into the same thing. We have so many irons in the fire that after a while you're like, I don't know if I can do more.
Yeah, exactly. And it's more like if someone says, "Hey, we're doing a show at the C Note. You want to be on the bill?" And then I'm like, "Yes,
Yeah, let's do that.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're in." And I don't care about money or anything. I
Yeah.
didn't have to book it. We just show up and play. That's awesome. So,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully we'll be back to New World soon.
Nice. And former guest of the podcast, Tim Downey, does the booking there, and I believe
Yep.
he's part of Plymouth Rocks, correct?
He is. Yep, Tim's
Yeah.
on the board at Plymouth Rocks, and he was one of the. Well, yeah. To back it up, so my band
Oh, yeah.
starts playing New World Tavern,
Mhm.
and that's how I get to know Tim.
Yep.
And that's even before he opened up the record shop. Mars
Records.
wasn't even open yet. So then that opened up, and just so many other things happening in Plymouth. I was like, "Hey, what do you think about this idea? You're in tune with what's going on locally and all these bands and the music scene, and am I crazy for thinking like do we need another person trying to do this stuff?" But we decided, whenever we do a Plymouth Rocks event, it's going to be just a little different and not something you're getting in Plymouth or even the South Shore. We try to think of it as like a Boston show, but in Plymouth,
Right.
But with all the local connections but just a little more. I
And
don't know.
that's one thing that I see that I like that you guys are doing is there's so many committees and boards and panels and groups and clubs in Plymouth, and they run the same type of events that after a while you're like, wait, okay, is this the artist's walk or the artist's stroll? And it gets really confusing sometimes. So like the stuff that you're doing is distinctly different.
Oh, great. Well, that's good to hear because I think that's what we want to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think it is a little tough starting out like we are to just to be offering up something different. Are people ready for it all the time, or are they just jumping right on board, or is it this? Oh, this is different. I don't know what it is.
How's
or,
the reception been so far?
So far, so great, really.
Yeah.
The town at every turn. The chamber has been so supportive. Anybody that we deal with has just been so supportive. The cultural district has been super.
Andrew
Andrew is great. Just everybody I talk to is like, oh, how can we help, or is there something we can do?
I love Plymouth.
And it's just so, and I always feel like I'm not talking to enough people just because, again, there's all these things I'm trying to, get done all at once. And, and sometimes I'm sure you're in the same.
Tatum calls me up and she's like, I got this. I'm like, yes. And she's like, I was going to say idea. I'm like, yeah, I'm in.
Right.
She's like, I haven't told you. I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Right. No, and that's Tatum with me saying, like, so I was thinking about leading up to the Monster Bash in October. We'll do some pop-up 80s happy hours.
Yeah, so tell us about that.
And she's like, great.
We're working together on that, kind of, sort of.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So it was exactly like that. Like, well, what can I do? Local, quick, fun, don't overthink it, just to promote the show. I'm like, well, obviously we got to do some 80s thing.
Yep.
So I'm like, I'll do a pop-up happy hour. What does that mean? I don't know. 5 to 7, we'll set up at a couple different places. So we already had one at Second Wind last Friday, which was awesome.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. Again, just, figuring out what does it mean? It's like, you're playing 80s, you're talking up the event, you're meeting new people, and that's pretty much...
Shaking babies and kissing hands.
Right, exactly. So now this Friday, tomorrow, we are at Speedwell, 5 to 7, doing the same thing.
Jordan's great.
And then it's the week after, we are at CBC.
Yep.
So you should talk more about that, because this is a dual event.
Thing. We're going to be doing a art reception for Caitlin Meyer, whose new artwork is hanging at the Craft Beer Cellar. And when I realized the time to change was right around October, I'm like, it has to be Caitlin, because Caitlin has a very, horror, creepy aesthetic to her work.
Awesome.
And so it'll hang October, November, probably into December. So we're going to, meet the artist, check out our work, see your newest stuff, and whatever 80s happy hour is.
Yeah, and then we'll be playing 80s music to go along with it. And I've been saying
there's going to be a beer tasting as well.
We're going to have Indie Firm's Plymouth Rocks IPA.
You have your own IPA?
We have our own IPA.
Nice.
So how many nonprofits have their own have their own beer?
Yeah, we're not a nonprofit, but we were talking with Hans at Second Wind about doing an Inebri-art.
Right.
The problem was we were all inebriated at the time, so it's like, yeah, we got to do that. And it's just kind of like, they're so busy there.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. No, it's a similar thing with the beer. It was like, well, maybe we can have our own beer. What does that mean? I don't know. We know Paul Nixon at Indie Firm, and maybe he'd make us a beer. Okay, let's just go talk to him. I mean, that's just how everything's been coming together. Like there are no silly questions. I'm not going to assume I know everything or anything about some things. Just let's go and see who's into it, and people that aren't into it, that's fine. Thanks for your time. We'll find the next person that is. But most people are like, yeah, what can we do? This sounds great.
And I'm sure our listeners are tired of hearing me gush all over Plymouth, but it's just like, you walk in and you'd be like, hey, I have this idea, and it's great. Yeah, let's do that. And just everyone has that same mentality of,
right.
Let's give it a try, see what happens, let's have fun.
Yeah, give it a whirl. And so, I've been in that world for a while. I said I work in indie film. I made a film in 1999, not knowing much about. We were at the time working at WFNX. And we were like, well, we can edit audio. How much harder can film be? Oh, it's only.
Does this sound familiar, Fish?
It's only a complete other science. Yeah. But it's kind of like when you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. You kind of just jump in, and we kind of just use that, well, we'll figure it out, premise to, make our first film. Yeah. Led to making a second one, led to doing a bunch of music videos, led to, like, having kids, taking a break from it for a while.
What kind of film was it?
I made a film called Captive Audience, 16-millimeter black and white, about an overnight DJ. Mm-hmm. Gets taken hostage while he's on the air. It won...
Can I ask, was this prior to Airheads?
It was in production prior to Airheads.
Okay.
Then Airheads came out, and I was like, don't even look at it. Don't even look at it. But a little darker than Airheads, and it did. We caught lightning in a bottle, and it won the President's Award at the Nashville Film Festival.
Oh, nice.
I won a screenwriting award in Toronto. The film screened at Woods Hole. It screened in Northampton. It screened all over the place. Like, we were like, holy cow.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. And that's still to this day why I think film festival, because traveling around with the film and hanging out with other filmmakers and the people putting the film festivals on and spending a weekend with like-minded people and watching other people's movies and staying out, way too late with other filmmakers. I was just like, it was the coolest. It was just the coolest thing, the coolest environment to be in. So then later we made our second film. It was a little bigger budget, which we were able to raise a little money because we had success. But then with that extra money was like, I kind of think it was like the Mallrats with Kevin Smith.
Right.
Suddenly he had to deal with unions and
people have opinions
and stars and stuff and all. So just because it's like, be careful what you wish for. Just because you get money doesn't mean it's
when
easier.
Friends, you can tell them to shut up and do it again.
Right. Yeah. Or just who cares what time it is? Go. Not like we're approaching double time because of the union, and you're like, you're like, well, just shut up. I didn't hear that, and people are like, you can't do that. I'm like, oh man. So, but that was my love of the film process, was really just going and showing it. So I thought if we could create a film festival here or recreate a film festival here, to kind of have that and create that environment. We went to a festival in Jackson, Mississippi, of all places, that this guy Ron Tibbett ran. It's called the Magnolia Film Fest. There was I think 8 features maybe and 20 shorts. Like, there wasn't a lot of films compared to other film festivals that show 200 films during a week. He was like, no, we're going to run 2 days. He's like, and I want everybody to see all the films.
Right.
And
so you have to choose which one you're going to go see.
Yeah, and we're kind of like, yeah, well, he's like, no, he's like, we'll send a car for you, to put us up and everything. He's like, we'll send a car for you, and they're going to drive you in at, 11 in the morning. We'll have a little breakfast for you, and then we're going to watch movies. Nice. And so he did that with all the filmmakers. So you saw everybody else's film. It wasn't like, oh, good luck with your screening, and then you don't see somebody. You saw everybody's film. There'd be breaks, and then...
And it helps with your audience, too, because you already have people...
Right, yeah. You already have 20 people in the crowd, and plus he did a great job. People were showing up. It was on the campus of Mississippi State, so we had a great room. He really promoted it. People came out for it, and it was literally 2.5 days of watching a lot of films. But then at night he'd have a reception, entertainment.
Nice.
And I was like, someday I'd like to recreate that. Like, not 15 locations, 6 locations, but one spot where everyone's, everybody's all in, and you're, celebrating all the films at once. I thought that was the coolest thing.
Yeah, that sounds pretty great. So I spend my $35 on a Monster Bash ticket, and where's that going to go? Your private yacht? Or
Yes, exactly. You're on to me. So working with Mike Capel at in the Plymouth school system, he runs all the audio, visual, and arts programs for the town of Plymouth. Sat down and, I said, well, I've been saying share proceeds with local school music programs. I guess I should find out
how to do that.
Yeah, I don't want to just show up someday with a check and you don't even know who I am.
Right.
So what do you think? So
some weird law where they're like, we can't take that.
Yeah, it's like, we can't put that back. Like, what? This is our mission. So we just sat down and, I told him a lot of stuff that I just told you, like how I came to this point and what I'd like to do. And he said, well, we could use money for private music lessons for kids that can't afford it.
Oh, nice.
And I'm like, great, let's make a scholarship toward that. I mean, I'm a kid who I had private music lessons. I started in the school.
Yep.
But again, when you're playing with 4 or 5, 6 other kids,
you kind of get lost in the shuffle.
You definitely can get lost, or if you're someone who's excelling, you could get held back. If you're someone that's kind of losing it, you could easily be like, you can just feel self-conscious, or you're like, I'm not going to play anymore. So I took private lessons as a kid, not even thinking about it, but that's what got me deeper into playing music. And so if you could do that for a kid, I mean, just one kid to help them out, you could change your life. Music is still everyone on the board at Plymouth Rocks has some connection to music. They either play or they're a DJ, or there's that connection to playing. So if we can help kids, realize the same kind of dream, that would be awesome.
I remember taking private lessons. I enjoyed those more than I was a band geek, so I hated marching band.
Right.
I liked concert band. I really enjoyed the private lessons, so that was stuff that I liked.
Right. Yeah. You saw an avenue of I could do this.
Right. And more geared towards what you want. And be like, hey, I want to learn how to play this, or
right. And then you could go home and just play by yourself,
right.
Work on stuff, and not always need a team. I mean, I played sports. I was pretty athletic as a kid, but I wasn't the best athlete.
Mm-hmm.
But I think playing the drums, I think I'm one of the best drummers around here in the school.
Yeah.
It was a whole different. It just put me on a different path of there's other things besides just being on a big team and all that stuff, and then radio, always listening to the radio, wanting to be a DJ. I mean, they all kind of came together, and still, it's just what I do every day. It's I'm still involved in the same stuff. It's music, it's radio, it's film.
Now, you said you have kids. Do you see your kids going into kind of creative type stuff too, as well?
I think so. My daughter plays flute in the Silver Lake Band.
Nice.
And my son started to take drum lessons.
Yep.
But then I saw it was maybe something I was forcing him to do.
Yeah.
So I totally backed off one day. I was like, because he would have his group lesson, and I'd be like, well, I can help you after that.
Right.
Dad's a drummer. I can help you with these things. And, I just think he was kind of not into that. And suddenly I just caught that vibe. I'm like, do you not want to do this? And he was like, well, yeah. I'm like, all right. I'm like, you know what? You can drop it.
Go be you.
Yeah. I'm like, someday if you want to come back, you want to start a rock band, you want to play drums, you want to do that, just, come to me, and he was like, yep. I'm like, all right, deal. Because I felt, I'm like, oh, God, I don't want to be that guy that,
right.
I scare you away from the arts because I expected you to,
right.
do something. So,
my son took up the saxophone, and I was like, hey, I used to play saxophone. He's like, you can teach me. I'm like, oh, God, I haven't played in years. I can't teach you. But, yeah, it's very cool to kind of see them kind of hit those same beats in life, being
right.
They're getting into creative
right.
stuff. My daughter's into art, and
that's great.
And
gee, that's weird.
Yeah, right. It's weird. Art and music. Where'd they get that?
Yeah, and it's and you want. Well, I think sometimes you almost want to just push them a little earlier or a little harder, because sometimes you might be like, oh, I wish I tried harder at a certain time, or when I stopped playing drums in college, why did I? That would have been the time to kick it up a notch, but I guess there just wasn't that one person to say, well, what are you doing? You should be playing more,
Right.
So I guess sometimes
But then you're also dad, which is totally different,
right? Yeah, it's hey, you wanted to, and they're like, what?
Yeah. So it's tough to take advice from the same guy who tells you to mow the lawn.
Right, exactly, and he does mow the lawn.
Yeah. So what other plans do you have for Plymouth Rocks? Where do you see it going? What's next?
I think probably 2019 is going to be some.
I hear 2020 is supposed to be big for something.
Something's going on in 2020. So I think 2019 is going to be building for 2020, because obviously we'd like to do. I'd love to have some kind of festival online for 2020.
Yeah.
But I think I was thinking that in 2017 as well.
Right.
Hey, 2020, it's years away, and all of a sudden you're like, oh wow,
it's around the corner.
For a small group of volunteers who all have other jobs or kids or both, and it's tough to just. I mean, we could easily run this full time. If you had a staff and sponsors and funding, you'd be like, wow, this is great. Here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to do it. Here's the people, but. Everyone's doing that in other jobs.
Right,
so,
yeah.
But I think 2019, it's putting on some awesome fundraisers.
Nice.
Just met with Linda from Plymouth Center for the Arts.
Don't know her.
Okay. And just talking about doing something in that space.
Yep.
A friend of mine from WFNX, Julie Kramer, took amazing photos from the late 80s to the early 2000s at WFNX whenever
cool.
rock and rollers would come by.
Yep.
It would always be, I think when she was part-time, she would get the call at home, hey, come in, Elvis Costello's going to be here in 2 hours.
Right.
She'd run in. Then she was full-time, so she was always there when
whoever walked in.
Joe Strummer, Paul Westerberg, I mean, the list goes on and on. So she just kept taking these photos and hasn't really shown them. I mean, we've all known about them for years, and So finally, she's gotten together a lot of the photos, blew them up, and she's going to have a show actually in Lynn this weekend.
Yep.
And I'm talking to her about doing a South Shore Plymouth show of her work, which will be a fundraiser for us. So that's probably like spring.
What's
and then
the name of the gallery in Lynn? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
So hung in a couple shows up there.
I'm not sure. I'm thinking it might actually be in the same building that WFNX used to be in.
Oh, okay.
Because Lynn Arts was in the same building that we were in.
That makes sense.
At 25 Exchange. That's just kind of a guess.
Yeah.
I actually have a gig and I can't go, so I haven't had to know exactly where it is. But she's a dear friend, and the pictures are I've seen some of them, but now she's. I've seen the one Joe Strummer shot that I've always seen up on the wall at FNX. I haven't seen the other 25 that she's like teasing on Facebook, and the Iggy Pop shots, and
cool.
It's just like, oh my God, like for someone who was there and worked there for years, I'm like, this is huge. So I could just imagine for people that were like, wait, what? Like all these people came through Lynn, like in the 80s, like so we're going to team up with her to do a show as a fundraiser. So I think it's going to be fundraiser based to try to get some funds together to pull something off bigger in 2020.
So we're kind of just hitting stride in our second year doing the podcast, and we're having those surreal moments of like, I can't believe I just met that guy. Like, who the people on your list that to this day you're still like, I can't believe I got to sit down and talk to so and so? Or
probably was Paul Westerberg, because I'm trying to think, was I? Actually, I think I was. So there was a door. You had to buzz yourself in. You had to ring a buzzer to get into FNX because it was in Central Square Lynn. It wasn't the greatest spot.
Wait, Lynn's not a nice
and
town?
And there was this little window that, and if you forgot your keys, you'd walk up and be like, oh, and you'd be like, buzz, buzz, buzz. And, and if someone's trying to record or do anything, and then they'd come up and they'd see your face in the window and be like, oh, where are your keys? I forgot them. So one day I was just trying to record something. It was like, buzz, I'm like, I'm working. Someone else.
Go
Isn't
away.
there an intern that can open the door? Buzz again. Buzz, like, what the fuck? Come walking out, like, literally yelling, like, okay, I'll get it. Like, I'm not busy. And there's Paul Westerberg's face
in the window. And you're like, oh, shit, I will get that.
I was like, holy cow. You open the door. Hi. And he's like, hi, I'm Paul. I'm like, yeah, I knew that. I'm like, I'm Mike. He's here for an interview, like, by himself. He wasn't with a manager or anything. I'm like, that's really weird. Another guy was similar situation, Butch Vig, the producer, plays in Garbage, but he produced the Nirvana, Nevermind, and Smashing Pumpkins. I heard an interview with him, and super nice guy. But again, same kind of thing. Like, I'll go get the door. I'm like, oh my God, it's Butch Vig. Like, and then seeing them later at the show, like backstage, and he was like, oh hey Mike, like what's up? And you're just like, this is nuts. And probably the third one would be Ben Harper. I'm a huge Ben Harper fan, and he came to the studio one day and was just like in the lounge, just picking on his guitar, waiting to go into the studio. And I just walked in like, hey, and he's like, hey man.
And you have those moments where you're like, this is my life. My life is so weird.
Right. I'm like, I really want to sit next to you, but that's going to be kind of weird. So I'm just going to say hi, and then I'll ask for a creepy picture later. But then Julie was always there to take a picture of all this stuff, which is just amazing. So
nice. Were there any, and don't name names, but were there anyone that you were like excited to meet or looking for, and it just was like, oh, that guy's a total ass? I mean, you can name names if you want to. I don't care.
Not really. I don't think so. And again, I was more on the production side, doing station image production and commercial and voices, and so I wasn't always like in charge of putting those things together. I would just reap the benefits of like, oh hey, is that Ben Harper? Like, I think I'll come out of my studio right now. So nobody really blew me off or was a jerk in an interview. Or actually, I should tell my Dave Grohl story. When they first played at Foo Fighters' first show at Avalon, which is now House of Blues.
I remember Avalon.
Hovercraft.
I saw Mr. Bungle there.
Oh sure.
Yeah.
Hovercraft opened up for the Foo Fighters, which is Eddie Vedder's little side band.
Oh, okay.
I don't even know if they ever released anything. I have no idea. But so they're on tour with the Foo Fighters. So it was, I guess, the two of them were just carrying on, because because Eddie had this little break from Pearl Jam, getting to do his own thing, play
Right.
little clubs. Dave's fresh out of Nirvana madness, just playing with his little band, the Foo Fighters, and so they played Avalon. And at that time, the backstage for Avalon, because they didn't have a proper backstage, was the Club Axis next door, which is where I worked.
Okay.
I used to DJ on Saturday nights there.
Nice. I saw shows there too.
So, and it was a great room. And Foo Fighters played, and I'm like, I think I had to pee, and I'm like, I can't. And I wanted a drink, but I didn't want to pay. It's a typical radio guy.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to. What am I going to do? And then they went for like an encore, and I'm like, I'm going to run through to Axis, which I know is getting ready to open up for like club night. I'm going to run through in there. I'm going to use the bathroom. I'm going to get a drink. Then I'm going to come back for the encore. I'm like, just because I think I've earned it.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. So like walk through. Security's like, yeah, go ahead.
Because you know enough people that you know you can do it.
Right, exactly. And I work with it from working at the club. I'm like, I know security. Like it's not, So I kind of run in and I run upstairs to Axis to go just take a leak. Mm-hmm. And there's Dave Grohl, literally like sitting. He was sitting on the ground, and he was either like changing his shoes or something. Like he's like a sweaty mess. And I just walked in to like pee, and I'm like, hey. I'm like, what do you say? I'm like, hey, great show, man. He's like, hey, thanks a lot. Like typical Dave Grohl.
Right,
like, hey,
yeah.
Good to see you in the bathroom. It's weird, but hey. And I was just like, hey, we'll have a good like encore. And I said something like, can you wait till I'm done peeing? And he's like, and then he went running out. And then I like went back down, and I was like, you're not gonna believe it, but
he seems like one of those just super genuine, nice guys.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's how he was back then. Just not like, hey, I'm in here.
Yeah.
He was like, no, hey, what's up? Like.
I'm
So
assuming
that's
you've
just a
seen
funny-
the video that was on YouTube of Kiss Guy.
Oh, I don't know.
So it's a Foo Fighters show, and I saw.
Oh, he jumps up and plays guitar.
Yeah,
Yes.
it just blows his mind.
Yes,
Yeah, that was great.
It was so good it almost looked like it was staged.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I know it wasn't, but I was
Yeah.
like, oh my god, like you lucked out that the kid can like wail.
And it's funny. It's like I saw Foo Fighters once, and it was so long ago. They were opening for the Chili Peppers. And I'm like, who the hell are these guys again? And they're like, oh, the lead singer who played drums for Nirvana. You're like, oh, cool.
Right.
And it was kind of like the throwaway opening band that you weren't really paying attention to.
Right. Or you're like, I'm getting another beer.
Yeah, and now everyone's like dying for tickets at Fenway. Like,
Yeah, I've done that a couple times, and like, oh yeah, so and so opened that show, and I'm like, yeah, and I was like in the parking lot drinking,
Yeah.
because I didn't go in.
A couple years ago, I saw the Guns N' Roses tour, and Lenny Kravitz was opening. So I'm like, I'm going in to see Lenny Kravitz.
Right.
The place is half empty. And
Right.
I'm like, what is wrong with you people?
Right, it's Lenny.
Yeah.
I saw Lenny at the Orpheum. It was great.
I saw him that summer, and I saw him do a free show at City Hall Plaza.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
good. What was the best show that you've ever seen?
Oh, wow.
Is there one that like stands out?
Oh man. That's tough. That's such a tough question. I mean, being part of the Green Day show when they played on the Hat Shell in '94.
Nice.
I was working, but I got cut early, waiting tables or bartending or whatever I was doing that night at Boston Beer Works in the Fenway, and I'm like, I got to get out of here. I got to go see Green Day, and they finally let me go. And by the time I got down there, it was just about in like full riot mode of like insanity.
Yeah.
We were figuring like 25,000 people, and had over 100,000, and
Holy shit!
and it was like
That's crazy.
truly amazing. Of like it put FNX on the map. We had the show booked before they played Woodstock that year, and then Woodstock '94 turned into this complete debacle with because of the weather and the mud, and they're throwing mud all around.
Was that the Limp Bizkit year that like they started burning things?
They started burning things, and it was
yeah.
like, but Green Day had like an amazing set from that and got so much press, and then it just everybody showed up for this Hat Shell show.
Yeah.
So that was cool, just from like, oh man, like I work here. Like look at all the people. It's just crazy. Of like, wow, I'm a part of this. This is insane. This isn't just a little club show of some. This is like everybody's involved in this. So that's definitely got to be up there. So many. I mean, I don't know. So many shows. PJ Harvey.
I sort of saw her. I got kicked in the face. My glasses flew into the crowd.
Ooh.
And I'm like, well, I'm here.
Where was that?
Whatever they call Great Woods now. It was,
Oh, yes.
PJ Harvey, Verka Salt, and I think Live.
Oh, wow, sure.
And
that sounds like a show.
So we had lawn seats, and like 10 minutes, 15 minutes into the first band, I don't remember who went first. I got kicked in the face. My glasses flew off into the crowd. You're like, I can't see shit. And then at the end, my friends was like being cool, like looking. I'm like, you're not going to find it. That was like 2 hours ago.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll listen.
Yeah. So.
But no, so many shows just from living in Boston and being on a guest list and being able to just go down to Lansdowne and pop in to see Motorhead or, so many shows, so many bands, so many nights just to, get to stick your head in and, see a band for an hour or half an hour or the whole night, or Lou Reed was amazing.
Oh, that would be cool.
That I didn't expect to. I was kind of like, yeah, I bet he's just going to come out and be kind of in the dark and running through his songs, and I was just like, wow, you guys are really good. Like, I think when you get surprised like that.
Yeah.
Saw Tool at Avalon.
Such a fun club.
Yeah, Avalon was great. I mean, so many Wilco shows. I'm the biggest Wilco fan in the world.
Yeah.
Saw them, I don't know, at least 7 times at Avalon. It's always Avalon shows or Axis for a little smaller.
Right before I split with my ex-wife, she was a big fan of Candlebox, which I could have cared less about. I did not care. And she had gone to see them. This was years and years ago. She'd gone to see them with one of her best friends, and her best friend died in a car accident on the way home from the show.
Oh, my God.
So now, we're literally on the outs. Our marriage is coming to an end, and she's like, I want to go see Candlebox. And I'm like, well, I can't say no. There's no way I can say no. And so I call her up. I'm like, hey, did you get the tickets? And she's like, yeah, they were $75 a piece. And I'm like, what?
You're like, you got,
I'm like, there's no way. She's like, they're all access passes. And I'm like, I can't say no, because she met the band when she went with her friend, and now she wants to meet the band again. Of course, fine, whatever. They put on a great show. Wow. It was long after they were popular, so I feel like they weren't showy.
Right.
There was no pressure. They put on a great show, and it became my game of the night was, how all access is this pass? There's a velvet rope. Can I go back there? And they're like, yeah, sure, go ahead. And I'm like, awesome. This thing's awesome.
It's all access.
Yeah. So it turned out to be a lot of fun.
No, it's good when you get those passes. We just got a pass. This is funny. Do we have time?
Sure. Yeah.
No. Erica Wennerstrom, guitar player, leader of the band Heartless Bastards. They're out of Ohio.
Okay.
They've been around for a couple years. Did a record a couple years ago called Arrow. That's one of my favorites. Just, became a fan. Saw him a couple times. Interviewed her for WFNX.com before that went away. And, just kind of kept in touch a little bit. It's like I'm a fan. I'm reporting on the record, but I'm also a fan. So, keep in touch, but not in a creepy,
just in
not a creepy way, but just I'm a fan of the band. So let me know when you're in town. And hadn't talked to her for a while, and then noticed she had a solo record coming out. I was like, oh, I wonder what happened, with the band. Is the band done? Is this just a solo thing? But I'm like, I'm not going to just reach out. It's kind of weird. We haven't talked in a little while. She emailed me to be like, hey, Mike, it's been a while. This might be kind of weird, but I'm like, this is funny. She's doing the same thing. It might be weird, but I'm playing Cleveland. I'm flying into Boston, and then I have a 1 o'clock show at Newport Folk Festival on Friday, the whatever date it was, this past July. She's like, I really need a ride. And I thought, I don't know where you live in conjunction to Newport, but, she's like, I could give you a couple passes for Newport Folk if you can, get me there. And I'm like, I'm in.
Done.
Yeah, done. You don't have to ask twice. There's 2 of us, and 2 guitars and a pedal board and a merch bag, and I'm like, we're in. I'm gonna, I'm gonna take my wife.
Yeah,
that's my first smart move.
Yep.
Not ask, the buddy.
Yeah.
Ask my wife. If she turns me down, then
you go with the buddy. Yeah.
But my wife was like, no, that sounds good. I'm like, yep, because probably picking up, 2 female performers at the airport to drive to Newport Folk. Probably not what you just want to send your husband to do by himself.
Yeah, always ask the wife first. That's smart.
So just speaking of the passes and picking them up, driving them down, and then checking in as band, and you get your pass, and it was like, oh,
so cool.
This is great. And then walking, it's like, can we go in that hospitality tent? Of course you can. Oh, the beer's free. Oh, it is awfully hot outside. Let's sit in the shade and drink a beer. And
we're just now starting to get the PR people to call us and be like, hey, I have this band that's going to be in Boston. You want to interview them? I'm like, yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, it's just,
we'll meet him at the venue, and we get to watch a free show.
Right.
And
no, it's
great.
a lot. I mean, you see so much more stuff that way. I mean, I used to, a lot of times, tickets would just pop up, and, they'd be like, do you want a +1? And I'd be like, a lot of times I'd be like, no, I'm cool with just one.
Yeah.
For one, give the ticket to somebody else, but
Right.
I'm going to be on my way home. I live in the city. I don't have to meet anybody. I don't have to deal. I don't have to wait outside because somebody's late.
Yeah.
I can just show up, wave, walk in, and see Lou Reed, and not, I'm probably going to see somebody I know.
And then no one's going to be like, I don't want to go.
Right, yeah. Or I try to, you're working on some date or something. It's like, I'm running late, and you're like, I just want to go see Lou Reed.
Right.
And so I kind of learned, no, I'm just going to give me my one ticket. I'm not,
Nice.
I really want to see the show. But when it's free, you can...
Right.
You can do that a lot more. But again, you're out there, you're spinning it, you're playing it in the clubs, you're part of the machines.
Right,
You give you the ticket for the interview.
Sure.
You're out there promoting the band, and that's worth the ticket. So
Yeah.
It all makes sense. See, these freebies make sense.
Yeah, of course. So if people want to check stuff out, they can go to PlymouthRocksEvents.org.
Correct.
And the 27th is when it all goes down.
27th, and our little pop-up 80s happy hours before then.
Yep. So if you're down for some good music and a Halloween
costume party, definitely dress up. We're getting
check that out.
Cash and prizes for the best costume.
And if you're into the imagination movers, I had a look. I was going to say motivation movers. I'm like, that's not right.
Kids, nieces, nephews, grandkids, whatever it is. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Kids that are into them aren't listening to our podcast, I hope.
The 4 to 14s love the podcast.
Not this one. There's a lot of bad words on this one. So, but yeah, check it out. I think what you guys are doing is great. Awesome. And we will extend that Plymouth hospitality where if you need anything from Inebri-art, you just give me a yell and I'll make Fish do it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks again.
I just got that.
All right. Thanks for listening to our podcast. Don't forget to check out our other podcast. There's the Bar Talk podcast. There's Old Colony Cast, and of course the Inebri-art podcast along with Jam Packed. You can find all those on Stitcher, iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, pretty much anywhere podcasts are found. If you're on some sort of service and you can't find it, let us know, and we'll help you out and or add our podcast to that too. You can contact us at inebriart@yahoo.com and follow us on Facebook as well as Twitter at Inebri-art. And feel free to send us some tips, ideas, advice, hate mail, whatever it is, you can get us there. And again, thanks for listening.